You know, Ken Carey, in his new book, The Third Millennium, said something that I thought was so beautiful. He said, "The warm rains of new thought fall gently on the soil of human consciousness." It's not as though this new consciousness-raising movement that's going on is a big storm or battering at people's doors. It's that it's like a gentle spring rain, and as it falls, it awakens the soil, and little blades of grass are raising everywhere on the planet. Look at us here, a sea of spring grass, awakening souls. Now, for some of you, I may say some revolutionary things today. And for others who've been on the pathway for some time, it may just reconfirm what you already know. But it's a glorious time that we're living in, and wonderful new things to learn, new understandings to have of our human consciousness. You know, deep at the center of our being, there is an infinite well of love, an infinite well of joy, an infinite well of peace, and a place within us where we are totally connected with infinite wisdom. These are the treasures that are within us, and they're only a breath away. So just for a moment, I'd like you to close your eyes and come with me. Let's go to that place within you where there is infinite love, where you can see life through unconditional love. And the more love you share and give, the more will return to you. So feel that love and let it grow and expand. Now come with me to that place where there is indescribable joy, bubbling, where you see the joy of life at all times. And let yourself feel that joy within you and feel it grow and expand. And then come with me to that place within you where there is deep, serene peace, as quiet as a mountain lake, where the outside world cannot touch you, and feel that peace. And then come to that place within you where there is infinite wisdom, where all the answers to all the questions you will ever ask are already within you, where whatever it is you need to know will be revealed to you. These are the treasures within you. And as you open your eyes and come back to this room, keep remembering that you have these treasures. Do we use them once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year? Or do we totally forget that we have these within us? You see, when we use the treasures that are within us, we will get to drop a lot of the burdens that we carry. Burdens like anger and rage and shame and guilt and prejudice, judgment. We will not need to create illnesses any longer. And I really think we can begin to reverse the aging process, because it is burdens that age us. So I'd like to ask you that once a day or twice a day, first thing in the morning and last thing at night, you stand in front of a mirror and look into your own eyes and say, I am filled with unconditional love, and I share it today. I am filled with indescribable joy, and I feel it today. And I am filled with deep, serene peace, and I experience it today. And I am connected with infinite wisdom, and I listen for those answers. I receive those answers today, because this is the truth of your being. And people who declare the truth can literally change the world. I know it sounds simplistic, it's repetitive, and it is very powerful. We have so much within us that in times past we have not been taught to use. But what is happening now is we are learning the power of our minds and what this can do for us and how it can literally transform our lives. I am not a healer. I do not heal anyone. I am a teacher who shares ideas with people. And like most good teachers, I too have had many, many dark nights of the soul. And many of us good teachers have come through very, very difficult childhoods. And we have learned to heal the past and release the past. And that is why we are able to help you do the same thing. Because we cannot create a glorious future or a wonderful today if we are in bondage to the past. Remember, forgiveness is healing our wounds of the past. In my own life, as far as I know, my life was very wonderful till I was around 18 months old. And then my parents divorced, and I went into a series of foster homes. My mother was an uneducated woman, and she needed to work as a domestic, as a servant in someone's house, and was not able to take me. So I went to a series of foster homes, and life was very difficult for me. And then when I was about 5 years old, she remarried because she wanted to make a home for me. But unfortunately, she married a very abusive man. So life became a different kind of hell at that point for both of us. And around the same time when I was 5, I was raped by a neighbor. And I remember being told that it was my fault and that I was shaming the family. But nevertheless, there was a court case, and the man did go to jail for 16 years. But I was very scared during my childhood that at some point this man would come out and punish me because I had put him in jail. And when I was in my early teens, then in addition to the physical abuse I was handling, there began to be sexual abuse from my stepfather. And when I was just about 15, I thought that was enough, and I left home and went out into the world. Only unfortunately, because of my upbringing and because of the fact that we were so poor and I had been abused so much, my self-worth and my self-esteem was literally under the stage, under the building. I had none. I had no self-worth, no self-esteem, and no social skills at all. And because I was so very, very starved for love in those days, if a young man would put his arms around me, I would go to bed with him. And so within a year, I had a little baby girl. And it amazes me sometimes when I look back now and think that I was able at that age, which is with as little as I knew, to find her a really good home with a really good family. And once she was 5 days old, I left her life and I have never seen her. When I look at that from my perspective of today and my understanding, I see that that little girl had to get to that family, and I was the vehicle to take her there. And because of my belief in my lack of self-worth, it was one more experience of shame that I needed to prove to myself how terrible I was. You know, we talk a lot about teenage pregnancy and how terrible it is. But what many people don't seem to realize is that no young woman, no young girl with self-worth and self-esteem would allow herself to get pregnant in the first place. We must fill our children with self-confidence and self-worth so that they are able to handle the challenges that life brings them. If you fill them with fear, they become powerless and they do not know how to heal. So I went on with my life, but because of my belief in myself, my beliefs about life, I attracted many abusive men and many menial jobs. And it took a long time before I could begin to turn that around because I had no self-worth. However, in time, things began to change. And I remember at one point, I married in my late 20s, I married a wonderful Englishman. He taught me social skills, and it was a very nice period of my life for about 14 years. And then one day he wanted a divorce. And of course, I was totally devastated because once again, I was saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I can never do it right. But I didn't realize at the time that life was really giving me an opportunity to move into a new phase. And while it was very difficult for me for some time, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And my teacher appeared in the form of a class. A friend said to me, I'm going to a lecture tonight. Would you like to come with me? And I went. And it literally began the turning point of my life. I was in my early 40s, and these people told me that if I was willing to change my thinking, I could change my life. And it was the most important thing that I think I have ever heard in my life. And while I didn't know what they were talking about and didn't really know what they meant, something inside of me said yes. And so I started to go to classes and read books and listen to tapes and make notes furiously and study and study. I, who had been a high school dropout and had never studied anything in my life, suddenly found a subject that absolutely fascinated me. The way my mind worked and the influence it had on my body and on my life. So I was studying away, and time passed, and my life started to change. I was doing affirmations and making some progress, and I started to get what I call the green lights in the parking places, when the little things in life start to work for you. And I thought I was pretty hot stuff. And I was in those days. I was doing well. And after a time, I got to a point where I began to teach what I knew and work with people on how to help them change their consciousness, to change their lives. And then one day, I was diagnosed with cancer. And just like anyone else who is diagnosed with cancer, I went into total panic. I was absolutely petrified. But I did have something on my side. I had tools to work with because I had worked with other people. And at that point, I knew that the mental equivalent for the disease called cancer is resentment. Deep, old resentment that literally eats away at the body over time. I remember calling my teacher and saying, they say I have cancer. And he said to me, Louise, you cannot have done all the work you've done on yourself to die of cancer. Now let's take a positive approach. And I remember clinging to that statement. And I began to do all the things I could figure out to do to handle this. I knew that if I would have the operation that they said I must have, and I didn't clear the mental pattern that was contributing to this disease, then they just keep cutting Louise until there was no more Louise left. You see that doctors don't get it all out. I think that we contribute to a condition in our bodies. We go have an operation, we come back, and we live life in exactly the same way. We don't change our thinking, we don't change our habits, we don't change our attitudes.